green meadows and awesome green forests. And yet, now the earth has a bad fever. What does it mean to have a bad fever? Well, the earth is too hot. And we know that this is because humans, we did this. We took the coal and the oil and burned it as our fuel, but it made too much carbon dioxide. We know now carbon dioxide is the problem. So I'm going to talk today about the crisis of global warming. What does it mean to be at a tipping point for climate and energy? Well, I'm going to talk about the science of what causes it, and we know it's carbon dioxide, and then talk about the solutions to this crisis: divestment from fossil fuels, new solar energy, and lowering the carbon dioxide level so we can have a habitable earth for us and our children. You know, life is really resilient, and life finds a way to come up through the cracks in the pavement. Life seems very fragile, but we know actually that Earth is going to be okay. Life will survive in some form, and it's actually humans that have the problem. Humans are the endangered species. So this crisis of global warming, President Obama said that those who are already feeling the effects of climate change don't have time to deny it. They're busy dealing with it. So you know all of these effects of global warming here, and I'm going to go quickly through some of them. That we are now in the midst of the 6th extinction, which is an extinction event because the climate's changing. So we have hurricanes like Katrina or Sandy, or just last week, Matthew. We have superstorms out on the prairie. Here in California, wildfires. And the glaciers on the polar cap are melting. Deserts are expanding. We have droughts and heat waves. Here in California, we have a drought that was not this bad for 1,000 years. Normally in that meadow, the snow would be over their head. But as of April, it was all melted off. Ice and glaciers are melting. This causes the sea level to rise. And this could flood cities that are on the coast, like Rio here, or like San Francisco, or Huntington Beach, or Boston, or Washington, D.C. So I'm going to talk a bit about sea level rise. It takes time for ice to melt. And so since we already have 1 degree of warming, or 1.5 Fahrenheit, this has already committed us to about 17 feet of sea level rise. 7 feet from just the melting of the Arctic and Greenland. This would cause 25% of Huntington Beach here to be flooded. Or out in the Sacramento Valley, 25% of Stockton already committed to be flooded. It's already a done deal. The effects of not just the warming, but the extraction industry gave us disasters like Deepwater Horizon out in the Gulf. The bomb trains, such as the oil train that went off the track and crashed in Lynchburg, Virginia. Here in Southern California, Porter Ranch gas leak, when an old rusty pipe and valve blew out, and we had 25% increase in the methane released just from California. That's a 25% increase in what we normally would have, and methane's an even more powerful greenhouse gas. So, the Pope Francis, back in 2015, said that the gravest effects of all attacks on the environment are suffered by the poorest. The science of global warming and climate change is well understood and has been for 100 years. So we know that we're having an increase in temperature, that the carbon dioxide is the problem, and it's gone up above 400 parts per million, and that there are positive feedbacks which lag in time for the greenhouse effects to be felt. from the water, the methane, and the CO2. And the lag means that we will have probably another degree of warming, but we have to keep the temperature below 2 degrees of warming maximum, or else we really get into the serious problem of runaway greenhouse gas. So we know CO2 produced from burning coal, oil, and gas is the problem. And we've measured the CO2 now at Mauna Loa for over 70 years, and there's an annual cycle of CO2 increase every year, but we know the net increase is from the burning of coal to make electricity, oil to make transportation, and natural gas for industry. For over 400,000 years now, we have a record from the ice cores of both the